for me to
joining us for today's Fast and Fabulous PowerPoint presentations. I'm Judy Beebe, Vice President of the Seattle Chapter, and it's the Seattle Chapter that's hosting our presenter, Melissa Esquibel, today. I know some of you that are logged in have already attended webinars from Melissa, and I think you will agree that she is fabulous and will do a fabulous job today on the topic at hand. She's a Microsoft certified trainer, and quite frankly, right now she's the Seattle Chapter's go-to guru for everything MS Office Word. So we're going to put it in her capable hands now, and if you have questions, please type them in the chat box, and she'll take a couple breaks, and we can address your questions. You're on, Melissa.
Thank you, Judy, and I'm so glad to be back with SDA Seattle Chapter. This is one of my favorite topics. So today we're going to talk about, as far as presentations go, what works and what doesn't. We've all been to some pretty interesting presentations, I'm sure, and could have some horror stories about the worst slide decks we've ever seen. And we're going to talk about how to make sure that we're generating things that are really, really effective. We're going to talk about fast-tracking content. And if you only get one thing out of this presentation, I hope it's this topic. We spend way too much time fighting with PowerPoint as a word processor, and it's a terrible word processor. So we're going to see ways to work around that where you can get your content in quickly and then worry about designing things. Speaking of design, we'll cover some graphics and animation, when to use what and why you're going to use that, when animation is a good idea and when it's really not, when animation can become part of how you communicate something, and that's really when it's used most effectively. Given my knowledge of the folks from SDA, I know that Excel data plays a big part in many of your presentations. So we're going to talk about the right way to get Excel data into PowerPoint so that it works for you. Microsoft gives us quite a few options, and all of those options have a different purpose. So today you'll learn about those and figure out which ones are going to work for you, which ones are the most useful for you. And then some tips for repurposing decks. So if you have some very large decks that you almost never deliver in their entirety, but you select from these decks to choose certain slides, we're going to show you how to use custom shows to do that. So you're not making multiple copies, but you're actually just using a single deck to do different arrangements of slides. Okay, do's and don'ts. Don't pack your slide full. Now I want you to think back on some of the worst presentations you've ever seen. You know, where it's like 18-point type, you're sitting in a chair in a conference room, you're looking up at the screen, it has got basically the speaker's outline up there, and you can't see it. It's funny what happens, the way the human brain works. If you show me something on a screen, I understand that you want me to see it and interpret it. So I'm now squinting at the screen, trying my best to see everything. And if there's very little white space, I'm really struggling to discern one line from another. Meanwhile, the presenter is speaking, and I have no idea what they just said. Zero. Because my brain is fully engaged in trying to decode what's up on the screen. So don't pack your slides full of things. Better to have more slides with less information. And don't necessarily riddle your presentation with bullets. It shouldn't be slide after slide after slide after slide with bullets. There are other ways, interesting ways, more engaging and interactive ways to present your data in PowerPoint. What I see a lot of folks do is they use the handout master right in PowerPoint to generate the handout. That's not my favorite way to see a handout. If you are going to generate a handout, it should be a value add to the attendee. It should not be a substitute for them attending the session. So I hear this sometimes when I walk down halls of some of my client offices. Hey, I can't make your meeting, send me your deck. And my internal response, sometimes external, but my internal response is, hey, if my deck could communicate without me, why would I even have a meeting? So where decks are meant to be presented, the handout should enhance what is in the presentation. It should support what's in the presentation, not necessarily just be a copy of the slides. And when you are preparing a presentation for somebody else to do, the slides should not be their script. If I read my slides to you during the meeting, your impression is probably, I could have done that. Why didn't you just send me an email with your deck and I would have read all the bullet points just the way you're doing that? So slides are not a script from which to read. They should highlight the high points of whatever the topic is. If more detailed information is required, it should be in the handout. So there are really three pieces to a good presentation. There are the speaker's notes, the actual slides, and the handout. These are three separate pieces. Now they can be generated using the slide deck, using PowerPoint, but they're three separate things and they need to be addressed separately. So you do want to create a separate handout. The handout that I've shared with you today was produced from my slides, but it is not an exact copy of my slides. And very good. Okay, so you do want to create a separate handout, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a copy of your slides. Now, the 3553 rule is my rule. I've heard of the 666 rule, which is 6 bullet points, 6 words apiece. Mine is 3553. 3 bullet points, 5 words apiece, or 5 bullet points, no more than 3 words apiece. Now, for some of you, that will throw you into a panic, because how on earth can I get everything I need in 3 bullet points or 5 bullet points with only that many words? Well, the answer is you're going to have more than one slide. So in a moment here, you're going to see a slide packed with all of the steps, and in reality, that should probably be in 2 slides because the eye can't perceive all of those steps in one. So we'll see what that looks like in a minute. And then try alternatives to bullet points, okay? So there's things called SmartArt, and we'll see how SmartArt can work for us there. And always create a presentation that supports the presenter, not one that supplants the presenter. If a deck can survive, if a deck can communicate 100% of everything that's needed without the presenter, then don't have a meeting. You don't need a presenter. What you've generated is a document, not a presentation. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you intend to use it, that's fine. That's not what today's session necessarily addresses. But that is a document to read, not a presentation. I'm a right tool, right job person. There is almost no design work that you can do in PowerPoint that you can also do in Word as far as graphics and word wrapping and all that other good stuff. So if it's a document, put it in Word. And if it's a presentation, then it can go into PowerPoint. So the steps are these. We first begin by outlining the presentation. Now, if you're going to work along with me, we're going to do this the easy way first. We're actually going to do this in PowerPoint. So if you're working along with me, you want to fire up PowerPoint here. I'm going to fire up a new instance of PowerPoint since I'm using mine in the background. So you want to fire up a new presentation. Depending on the version you're using, you will either want to click the word outline, which will appear in a tab right about here, or you'll want to go to the View tab and choose Outline View. So once again, if you're using 2010 and earlier, you should see 2 little tabs up here. One says Slides, one says Outline, and you'll choose whichever one you need. Now, if you're using a later version, you'll actually go to the View tab and you'll choose Outline View. Now, the hardest part of working in Outline View is ignoring this. Forget about it. Don't even think about it, and outline your presentation. So let's say this is on New Projects Report. Now, you might see the typing going on over here, but where I'm actually typing is over here in this panel. I'm typing right here. So I'm going to do a quick overview outline. So new projects report, I know we're going to have an agenda, and we're going to talk about new construction projects. Projects not yet started. And we'll talk about anticipated work. And then we'll go ahead and have a summary, action items review, and maybe a thank you slide at the end. Okay, so we've just kind of outlined how that meeting or presentation will go. And all we've done in the outline view is typed and pressed enter. And each time we did that, it actually created a new slide. So let me come back to here. So we're going to create our outline. You can then fill in all of your content. We're going to keep going with that. You'll create your presentation file, fill in your content, and then add all the graphics. So this is what we've just done. We went to outline view. Now I'm going to show you with tab and shift tab how to flesh out that content so it looks like this. By the way, if you're using 2010 or earlier, that's that slides and outline tab thing you'll see. That's gone now in the new versions, and we have to go to view and outline view. So let's flesh out our presentation. Ignore this now. We're still ignoring what's on the right-hand side. Let me see if I can make that even wider here, so you can just not even look at that. So new projects report. So I'm going to say, put my name on there. I'm going to press enter and tab. Now you notice it indented a little bit in my outline. So I'm just going to put my name in there. Now I'm going to use my down arrow key to get to the agenda. That also needs to be enter and tab. Now, because I already have all this information here, so all of this, that's really our agenda, right? So I'm going to do a copy and a paste text. Let me do that again. I copied everything that I decided was going to be in the meeting. Copy. I went to agenda. I pressed enter and tab. That gave me a bullet point. And instead of just paste, I did a right click. Did I do my copy again? I need to do my copy again. Sorry, guys. Paste. And it's this button here where you see the A. That just is paste text. That will adopt whatever format it's already in. So now I have my agenda that's built out just like my slides. Those are all bullet points. Let me drag this back so you can see what it did. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some bullet points under this guy. So let me actually clear these. Put my little bullet points on there. There we go. That first one too. All right. Now, new construction projects. We have the ABC project, enter. The XYZ project, enter. And the LOL project. We all know what that one is. It's the one that's not going so well. Okay, so we have those three projects, and all I'm doing is typing over here. So we have the mall, and we have the office building. Those aren't started yet. In anticipated work is the stadium and the plaza. So all I'm doing is coming over here and pressing tab to create a bullet point on a slide. But I'm working in text. I'm not fighting with PowerPoint and the way it changes the size of your text in the boxes. I'm ignoring all that for now because there's going to become a time when we deal with the design, but that time is not now. So summary, action items review, maybe summary is fine the way it is, action items review. So this is for sales, for engineering, and for marketing and exec team. Those are the to-do items by group that we're going to review them, and then thank you. So that's kind of our whole presentation here. Now, you don't have to, if you're doing this again along with me, you don't have to have the same outline I have. I'm just making stuff up as I go along. But what we have done here is we first created our outline, and then we put kind of the content headings in here, ignoring the entire time what's going on the right-hand side, because that's where we waste time initially. There's going to be an opportunity to do fixes on the way the text appears and the containers appear. There's going to be opportunities to do that in a way that's more efficient than doing it manually on each slide. So click and drag to rearrange. Let's say we're going to talk about projects not yet started first. Watch what happens when I click and drag. Now I've got my cursor over the little 4 box, the box next to the 4, and I'm just going to click and drag that up here. It took all the bullet points with it. I'm going to do the same thing. Click and drag this bullet point up there. So now I've just rearranged my presentation. I didn't have to go in and do copy, paste, and insert slide and any of that stuff. Working from these little boxes, I can click and drag and move things wherever I want to. Let me get my cursor back here. So I'm going to put this back in this position. And I'm going to take this, select it, oops, and drag it into this position. And if you get a funny little thing like that, just press enter and it will fix that bullet point for you. Okay, so we've got our presentation arranged. This is a way to do that same type of process from Microsoft Word. So we first did this in PowerPoint. I used to do all my outlines in Word. Sometimes I still go to Word to do this, but that was one method to do it. In PowerPoint, I find that most of the time that is easiest. However, let's talk about the process for Word. And by the way, this is one of those slides that should have been on 2. So if I'm looking at this in my presentation, how I'm going to fix this is just like this, and then we'll go back to the method. I would duplicate this slide. Control D is duplicate, or you can do right-click duplicate. So I have 2 slides here. On the first one, I'm going to get rid of those. And on the next one, I'm going to get rid of the first 5. Now you'll notice the numbering starts over at 1, so you can simply do what you would do in Microsoft Word. Right-click, numbering, bullets and numbering, start at 6. So this slide is 1 through 5, and this slide is 6 through 9. So that's what I mean by breaking up the slide a little bit and breaking up that content so there's some white space for the eyes to negotiate. Okay, back to fast tracking from Word. If you're working along with me, go ahead and fire up Microsoft Word. Just a blank document is fine. I'm going to make mine view page width so we can kind of see what's going on. If you don't have your navigation pane open, and you're using 2010 and later, you might want to open it up by clicking on the View tab. And in the Show group, look for the word Navigation Pane. That's going to kind of give us a bird's eye view, if you will, of what our outline's going to look like. So once again, let's type in, let me zoom this in, type in our presentation. I want you to outline. I want you to resist the urge to format this in any way. So I'm going to be real generic here. My presentation, enter with Melissa Esquibel, enter. We're going to have an agenda, or we're going to talk about this, that, and the other. I'm going to copy that because I know that I'm going to have a slide for each one of those, right? No formatting, no bullets, no tabs, summary, and thank you. So that's my basic text outline. If we're doing this in Word, we then want to go on the Home tab and start applying heading 1 for whatever is going to be a slide topic, and heading 2 for whatever is going to be a subtitle or a bullet point. So this needs a heading 1, and these need heading 2. You can do shortcuts. Control-Alt-2 is heading 2. Control-Alt-1 is heading 1. And these are both all heading 1s. So heading 1 and heading 2. You will only go wrong in this part of it if you try to tab, dash, anything. In fact, I'm going to turn off show hide so you don't even see all the extra stuff. Just type and press enter and then apply your heading styles. So let's put some bullet points here. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. And under this one, we'll make this a process. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And this one is info 1, info 2, info 3. I don't want to get too fancy here. These, because they're bullet points or subtitles of some kind, they're going to be heading 2. Now, styles do more than just make text look different. Some of you maybe have been around long enough to remember WordPerfect and reveal codes. So by making something into a style, you're actually encoding that text. And that text can be read now by PowerPoint. There is a button, so if we come back to our processes for a moment. The first step says Add Send to Microsoft PowerPoint button. So let's do that. If we drop down, we need to do this from Word, sorry, we need to be back in our Word outline. We're going to drop down this little arrow up here and go to More Commands. I'm going to leave this up for a second for those of you that are clicking along. So More Commands. We're going to change popular commands to all commands. Now that doesn't sound very hard, but I really need for you to actually click on the word all commands and give it a second to refresh the list. Okay? What a lot of people do is they see all commands and they hover over it and now they think they're done. You actually have to click on all commands and then it will refresh the list. Depending on whether you're using Office 365 or what, that may actually take a second to do that. Once you have your all commands list, we're going to look for something called Send to Microsoft PowerPoint. You won't have yours over here. So the way you find it, we're going to click in anything over here in this big list and type in S for send, S. Now it should bring you down here to save. I hate scrolling. If you know me, you know how much I hate scrolling. So I'm not going to. I'm going to click underneath this button 1, 2, 3 times, 4 times. Send to Microsoft PowerPoint. I'm going to leave this here for a second. Now, it looks different in the earlier versions. In the earlier versions, it's like, say, 2010 and before. It's a red, white, and blue button. It's very, it's got some shadowing and some beveling. In the later versions, it's a very plain button, but the name of it is Send to Microsoft PowerPoint. Now, while you're looking for that, to be able to add it, so once you find it, you can just click Add. Don't hate me, but this button has been around PowerPoint since forever, since I'm talking Office 97. But we didn't know it was there because no one told us. This used to be on the File Send To drop-down menu in the real early versions. But you know how it started shortening up that menu for us to only do the things that we have done recently. So nobody ever saw it, but it's been around forever. All right, so we'll click OK here. Let's quickly save our document here. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it to my desktop so I don't have to fight for the internet here for this one. There we go. Now that it's saved, got my heading 1, heading 2. So let's go over the steps before we go on. We added the button, we got our content in there, and we applied heading styles. If you want to rearrange anything before you send it to PowerPoint, the place to do that would be over here. So if I want to cover that before this, I'm going to work in that navigation pane just by dragging it up. And it took everything with it. Just like it did in PowerPoint, it takes everything with it. Okay? So work from the navigation pane if you want to rearrange the deck. And if you rearrange the deck, don't forget about your agenda slide. Many times, if it's a very involved presentation, I won't even create that agenda slide until I'm kind of done, until I'm really sure what we're going to do, or at least finalize it. So just be aware you do want to change that if you're going to change the order. So now that we have the outline built, we've applied our heading styles, we've got our Send to Microsoft PowerPoint button up here. If you don't see this up here, again, you're going to go to More Commands, change Popular Commands to All Commands, give it a second to come up, click in there, type an S to get down to Save, 2, 3, 4, and we're looking for Send to Microsoft PowerPoint, and you're just going to add that here. Okay, hopefully we've got everybody caught up. Now we're going to click the magic button, and it has added that information to PowerPoint and created your presentation file. Now there's some more steps to do here, but let's talk about the difference between the two methods that we just did. Okay? We did it first in PowerPoint in the outline view. When I'm starting from scratch, you and me sitting around trying to figure out what needs to go in this presentation and we're just typing and hitting enter, I'm doing it in there. If I have been presented an outline or a workbook, I'm going to copy and paste that outline or workbook table of contents into Word, clear all the formatting, and that is with this button here. Depending on the version you're using, that might look a little different. It might look like a pink eraser. It might look like a Tylenol, but it's an A with a something on it that's meant to be an eraser. I would clear all the formatting from it, get rid of all the extra junk, and then go through and apply heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. So if I'm already starting from something that needs to be cleaned up, I'm probably going to do it in Word. If I'm starting from scratch and we're just sitting around saying, hey, what belongs in this presentation? I'm probably doing that in PowerPoint. For those of you who are doing this for somebody else, when you're sitting, when you're in that situation where they said, can you make a presentation for me? And you're now taking notes on what should be in the presentation, consider doing that straight into PowerPoint outline view. So you don't have to transpose anything from from one place to the other. It's just there already, and then you can work around it to rearrange things. Okay, so we've now completed steps 1 through 5. These will get you ready to design your presentation. So these will get you ready to design your presentation. So we've sent it to PowerPoint. Let me get to the one that we sent. There it is. And you can see that it still has that kind of blue text that was in Word. Well, we may want to apply our own branding. So in any case, what we want to do is kind of reset this whole deck to kind of a vanilla design, just plain. So click on one slide over here in the navigation pane. Control A or Command A if you're on a Mac selects all of the slides. This doesn't matter, any version. This is all, if there's a version difference to anything today, I'm going to share that with you. But just assume whatever I'm showing you is all versions. You might have to do some translations if you're on a Mac to the keyboard shortcuts, but most of this should work pretty much the same in the most recent version. So we're going to right click on top of that. Once you've selected them all, they should all have little orange boxes around them. And we're going to hit Reset Slide. Now you notice it all went black and white. What we have essentially done here is reconnected this deck to the default design theme. If that's a new concept for you, don't worry about it. We're going to talk about it in depth. The default design theme will be this one, Office, the Office theme. So when we selected everything and did a right-click Reset Slide, we reconnected it to the Office theme, the vanilla theme. These last two steps, kind of do them in any order. They're not imperative, but it may make it easier going forward. All of them, once you hit reset, are using a layout called title and text. This is a somewhat restrictive layout. So what I like to do is come back over here and select all my slides again using Control A, and first make everything layout, title, and content. The title and content layout is a great place to start, is the most versatile of the layouts. Now that we've gotten everything in that layout, let's grab the first one and do a right click. Remember, just the first one, so you should only see an orange box around your title slide now. Right click, layout, title slide. You want to do this, and maybe there's other layout changes you want to make. Maybe you want to make your thank you slide also a title slide layout. So if you know that ahead of time, you can do that. And now we can go ahead and apply whatever theme we want. Now, I know that some of you are working with design themes already for your organizations, and that's fine. We'll talk some about that in a bit. But just for now, go and select any out-of-the-box theme that you find under Office. Just to notice that when you did a reset slide, it will now change the fonts, the colors, and the backgrounds consistently. And you'll see probably on your title slide something a little different than some of the other ones. Here's an example. So this is the title slide layout with the giant burgundy box here. And then the rest of these look a little bit different. Here's another one. The title slide looks a little different than the title and content. So go find something you like. Just go apply whatever you like. I kind of like those leaves, so I think I'm going to go back to the leaves there. In the newer versions, 2013 and forward, you'll also notice that you have some variants. So I can change it to flowers, or it looks like a artistic chrysanthemum there. I can do a dark layout, so you can choose whatever you want to do there. I'm going to stick with my original one. So once you've decided, don't go crazy now, don't go shopping. Once you've decided what you're going to use for the class presentation today, just for what we're messing around with, because we did a reset slide, everything will change with it. Now I want to show you, don't do what I'm doing now, just hang back for a second. If I had done this, just sent it to PowerPoint, and immediately started applying a design, it would not change the text, okay? So even if I chose my, I don't know, here's my leaves one, it left the text blue and the font the same. So if you run into this, you can backtrack for a sec, select all your slides with Control A, and do a right-click reset slide. And now it's using the fonts that were in that theme. When we see how to create a theme for our own firm's look and feel, you'll see that you'll be able to apply the same type of thing to that. For right now, we're just using the things that Microsoft gives us. So we selected all our slides. We hit Reset Slide. We made them all title and content layout, and at least the first in title slide layout. After that, we applied the theme. So let me take a little, just kind of a little side road, and then we'll come back to the main road here in a second. if you're thinking, well, this is great, Melissa, except I've got hundreds of ugly decks, what do I do about those? So start with the deck, make a copy of it, always make a backup, because depending on how much you're going to have to rework it, you might lose some content. So first make a backup copy and start working on it. Your first thing you're going to try is to do Control A, like we did with all those thumbnails, and do reset slides. At the very least, it will take all of your slides and reconnect it to whatever underlying theme is there. Now, if that doesn't make anything any better, you're actually going to take this presentation and export it as an outline RTF. So let me take this presentation here and do a file. Now, it may be file save as, it may be file share, it may be file export. It's going to depend on the version you're using. But I'm going to do export. It's been that way, I think, since 2013. So if you're using anything from 2013 and beyond, you should see export. If not, you're going to look for either save as or share. I'm going to choose change file type here. And I don't see what I need here, so I'm going to go to save as another file type. And save as. Now this is where everybody will end up, where it will make sense. Let me go put this on the desktop. And we're going to save this as an outline RTF. And once again, I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a second. So however you got here, through export, save as, share, whatever your version is, you're saving a copy of this, and you're going to save it as an outline RTF. You need to scroll down in the save as types a bit to find this. Outline RTF. Now, outline RTF happens to be a file type that Microsoft Word can open. So I'm going to put it where you're going to find it. I'm going to put mine out to the desktop. You want to put yours out to documents, but just put it where you're going to be able to find it and click save. Now, back in Microsoft Word, we're going to do File, Open. Now, I put mine on the desktop, so I need to go find that. And there it is. And the icon, I don't know if you can see mine because it's kind of small. Let me see if I can. I don't know if my magnification is going to matter to you guys, but maybe it will. If you see this icon and this icon, that's two different Word icons. This is actually a Microsoft Word file. This is an outline RTF. You can see it still has a Word icon, okay, but it's a rich text format document. All right, so we're going to open up the rich text format document into Word. So this looks a little bit crazy right now. So if you select everything and clear the formats, you can reapply heading 1 and heading 2, however you want to see it. I'm going to do Control-Alt-2 here since I don't see it where I want it. And don't worry too much about where things are and what they look like. Let me just finish this up, Control-Alt-2. You don't necessarily have to be doing this part. This is cleaning up an ugly presentation. So we've put it out to an outline RTF. We brought it into Word. We got rid of all the formatting. Now we're reapplying our heading styles. And now I'm going to hit that button again, Send to Microsoft PowerPoint. So this is all laid out again. Send to PowerPoint. Enable editing if you get that option. And now we're back to doing the rest of the steps. Right-click, reset slide, right-click, layout, title, and content. Make the first one a title slide. And now we can apply whatever design theme we want. And it will look the way we want it to, and it will adopt all the fonts and all the colors. So it's a bit of a process with the ugly presentations. You may be fine by just doing select and reset slide. That's going to take away all the manual formatting on each slide and the color differences and the font size differences, and it's just going to make it fit the theme that's underlying it. That at least gives you a place to start. But sometimes it doesn't. Here's what to look out for, because even that outline RTF isn't 100%. Here's where that fails. If somebody has gotten rid of, let me come back to PowerPoint here. If somebody has gotten rid of these because they don't like them and they don't understand how they work, and they have replaced them with text boxes, this will not be exported as in your outline RTF. Text boxes won't go. That's why I always suggest that you keep a copy of the presentation, because when you get it back to Microsoft Word and all of a sudden you're missing a whole bunch of content, it may be because somebody put that stuff in text boxes instead of using the containers. So make sure you use those placeholders. Don't use text boxes. They're not going to help you. You have no more control over that than you actually do over a placeholder. And in fact, if you leave the placeholders there, you actually have more control about how things get formatted and how it flows. Okay. Before I move on to slide masters, which is the next big topic here, I think that everyone needs to understand to get really, really good, fast presentations that format correctly and look uniformly. Let me stop at this point and ask if Judy has any questions in the queue.
Melissa, I'm not seeing any questions in the queue. If anybody has any, you can type in the chat box, please.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go and I'm going to pause in just a moment just in case people are just kind of saying, oh, I didn't remember that I could ask questions. Okay, and this last part is related to where we've been. All along I've been saying the word theme. So in PowerPoint, a theme governs colors, backgrounds, and how objects appear. But it also governs slide layouts. What do I mean by slide layouts? When you right-click on a thumbnail and you hover over layout, you have all of these choices for how you want your slide to lay out. So if I wanted let's come over here to this one. If I wanted to make this a layout of 2 contents, I could do that, and then I could put a picture on this side. So that's a layout. How we see what's behind it is to go to the View tab and go to the Slide Master button. On all your versions, it's on the View tab, in the Master Views group, Slide Master button. Slide Masters back in the old days used to be pretty kind of complicated to use because it was broken apart into many, many pieces. Now it's all in one place. With your View and Slide Master, so we want to go to the View tab, Master View, Slide Master button. And where we want to be working most of the time is here up top with the actual Slide Master. So that's kind of confusing. So I like to call this the master slide. The master slide is the thing that is farthest to the top and governs what we're talking about. So if we take a look at this master slide, let's say we don't like the size of the fonts here. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of my levels here. So I really don't need for it to get smaller as it goes down. In fact, I'm going to select, undo. I'm going to select both of these and go to the Home tab and make them all 16 points. Actually, that's too small. I'm going to make them all 24 points. So now they're all, when you get to this slide, when you choose this layout, nothing's going to change. Another way for you to do that, so it affects all slides, is to go to the master slide and do that here. So let's see what happens when we change this one. 28. And now let's take a look at that one. Okay, so it didn't affect this one. It did affect a lot of them, but it affected this one, but it didn't affect this one. So here is the kind of confusing part about this master slide and everything that comes under it. Depending on the theme you choose, what you change on the master slide may or may not change things on the layouts. As you saw here, it didn't change all of them. So we do have to go then to this guy and make that change here. Now, if you did this on yours and it worked, that's fine. That just means the design that you chose works that way. This one, it wouldn't make that change on this slide. And we can just kind of go down and see how it looks. Maybe we're not keen on the size of the font. This is 44. Maybe I want my titles, topic titles, to be 40 points. So we'll make that 40. And maybe I would prefer them to be right justified. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my right justify button or Control R and have them appear off to the right. And that affects most of the other slides here. Anything that has a title. This one too, it didn't change the font sizes. So by changing everything back here in the slide master, when we then close the slide master, all of our slides will have adopted the new things that we set up, such as our right justified topic titles. Let me make this a title slide. So it fixed everything that we asked it to fix. Now those bullet points are bigger, and when you don't see them that they're bigger, you can do a right click, layout, see what layout it's using. This one is using to content. So we'll go to View, Slide Master. It's already on the to content one, and maybe we make these a little bit bigger. And I'm going to cheat here and just use the A with the little up arrow to make it bigger that way. Slide Master, Close Master View. So my Slide Master includes, let's go to the Design tab. It includes a background graphic. It includes this color set, whatever color set. If we do customize colors, it's going to show us the color set that's being used. If we're not crazy about that color set, we can make some changes in here. It's a little bit of a roll of the dice sometimes what this is actually going to change, but this will change the colors that you have available. For example, if I go to Home and Text, it changes this color set that I have available. Okay. So it does govern the colors. You will always have the basic Windows colors here to choose from, but it kind of changes the theme colors. So we get into the slide master this way. The big one up top is the master slide. Everything else is a layout. Now, what if you don't have all the layouts you need? You know, you have a 2 content and that's fine, but maybe you need a 3 content layout. Well, you can add one. So let's again go into the slide master, View, Slide Master, and let's find something close. So this 2 content one is close. Now I'm going to probably use this part of the slide. So I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to extend everything a little bit over to the right here. So I'm in a copy of this one, so I can do whatever I need to do to the copy. In fact, let me put it underneath this one, because that's the original one. This is the copy we made. And maybe I need to take my footer and make that go. That goes to the handout, not the slide itself. Okay. So now I've got it this far. We're going to make some more changes, but before I forget, I'm going to rename the layout to 3 content. And then I'm going to go back to the one that I messed up this guy and rename it just to content. Oops. Where is my to content guy? Well, you'll want to rename it. I may have zigged when I should have zagged, so do a bunch of things here. I'd rather get it to you the right way. View, slide master, here we go. So here is my to content slide layout in the slide master. I'm going to do Control D, duplicate it. I am going to rename the duplicated one. I apologize if that set you back a little bit, and name it 3 content. I'm going to rearrange all the elements here so that I can fit my 3 columns on there. Let's move some things over. Don't worry if it looks a little skewed for a moment. Just we're going to start rearranging things. Now, this is going to get in the way, so I'm probably going to hide background graphics on this one. See what I did? Just a checkbox. It's just going to hide that little picture and that underline here because we're going to have a lot of information on this slide, and that's going to probably get in the way. I'm going to roughly size a placeholder, and then I'm going to hit Control D on that and roughly arrange them till I get kind of the size of everything that I want. Let's say maybe it's going to be that big. Maybe this is the right size. So I'm going to click on the Format tab up here because I'm not going to go clicking and dragging a bunch of things, and just look at the dimensions, 4 by 378. In fact, let's make it 4 by 375. Now that that one's that size, I can take the other 2 and make those 4 by 3.75. Now they're all the same size. Looks like a decent size for this for a 3 layout. Now the last thing is, because they're not all lined up well, I'm going to select all 3 placeholders and do Align and Distribute horizontally. And now I can use this, and I'm going to go over that one more time. So now if I decide to take this one and do right-click, Layout, 3 content, I can now put in other things in the other containers. And it's nicely laid out, and it's equidistant. So let me review that one more time. In fact, I'm going to go into one of the other copies of a presentation here. We'll go to this one. We're going to go to the View tab and go to the Slide Master. We're going to find a close layout. So for me, that was this to content one, and duplicate it. Control D, or you can do right-click duplicate. We're going to rename this duplicate, and we'll call it 3 content, just so we can recognize it when we do that right-click layout thing. Otherwise, we won't necessarily know what it is. And then do whatever tweaks we need to do to make this work. Kind of see if I can do this a little quicker this time. So get everything over a little bit. Now, you don't have to, maybe the one you chose doesn't have a lot of background graphics, but I know that mine does, so I'm going to hit Hide Background Graphics. And then if you're doing something like this, don't worry about clicking and dragging to distraction. Just get them close where you think it's kind of close to the right size that it should be. And then go to Format and take a look. So we decided 3.75 was good. So I'm going to duplicate that. Kind of did it in a little different order this time. Now I have 3. Is this the same size? No, it's not. 3.75. To get the horizontal to work, you want to bring one all the way as far right as you want it. Then select all your placeholders, and I'm just holding my Shift key down and clicking. Align, Distribute horizontally. And now they're all set. Make sure you have the font sizes that you like. Let me get my footer drag back over here. If they got out of alignment as these did top to bottom, you can do align, align top. And now they're kind of all in a line that way too. And we'll close the slide master. And now we can use that to assign to anything we want. So we'll use the layout, and there is our 3 content. So it looks a little bit different there. Okay, let me take a little bit of pause. We're at the hour here. We kind of talked a little bit about themes. And before we get into all the fun elements, I just want to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions.
Melissa?
Mm-hmm.
So Carrie is asking, can you use a different background image on different slides?
You can. So if we go to let's go to our slide master here. That's a really good question, Carrie. If we go to our slide master here and we do, let's duplicate this one. What I would do on this guy, actually, I'm just selecting the leaf and hitting delete, so that's another thing we could do. And I could do background styles, format background. Let me format this with a picture. Just make sure you don't click reply to all. Apply to all. I just got done teaching Outlook, so I'm still in reply to all mode. And let me go find a picture. Let's go to a file that I might have. Let's put in that one. And so now I've just put a new background on that one. Now, if you're going to do that, again, rename it. Not that you're not going to see it in the layout, but just call it butterfly blank or whatever you're going to call it. You can call it whatever you like. And hit rename. Maybe if it's going to be a slide background, I want to make it a little bit transparent so I can actually put some text on it, so I might want to do that. And slide master, close master view. And now I can take this one. Let's put a new one in. Right click, layout. There is my butterfly blank. So yes, you can include different ones. I'll tell you who does this. A lot of the companies, large organizations that have different branding for different products. So if you think about Coca-Cola red, if you think about Kraft macaroni and cheese blue, those are very specific colors. And so companies like Kraft, Dart and Kraft, or whoever they are today, whoever Cadbury, whoever owns them today, will have backgrounds that match their branding. And so that's absolutely doable. And you can have dark and light backgrounds. Any other questions so far?
I'm not seeing any others right now in the chat box.
All righty. And keep in mind, at the end, we can go back to whatever. So if we need to go back to earlier things there at the end of the presentation, that's fine. You know me, everything's on the table. All righty. So what I hope that you've gotten so far is the fast part of the Fast and Fabulous PowerPoint presentations. Key takeaways: don't type in the little boxes in PowerPoint. Don't start there. Start in an outline. Whether you do that outline in Word or you do the outline in PowerPoint, and then start working on the design of your presentation. Don't go in and format each one individually. Go in and work on the slide master, because that applies everything. Let me do one more thing in the slide master just to kind of cover something I know that was in the, in fact, I'm going to change the design here to something a little more plain. Okay. So working with just a plain background, if you want to put a logo on every slide, one way to do that is to go to View, Slide Master, and from the master slide, insert the logo. And I'm just going to insert an icon here. This is icons are something new with Office 365. Just grab something. How about a fishbowl? What a perfect icon. What a perfect logo. And I'm going to park that logo where I want to see it on every slide. And you can see that it has now applied it to every layout. Now, do you remember when we did that one change? I think we changed the size of the text in the content containers, and it didn't change it everywhere. So depending on the design you chose, sometimes it will not apply that logo to every layout. So you would need to go in and then apply it to those layouts too. As you can see, it didn't apply it to this one. What's the layout on this guy? So it didn't apply it to the 3 content layout, but it applied it to everything else. So we would need to go in there and manually put it on there. Another way to think about that, I'm going to go ahead and undo that, is don't put it on the master slide and instead put it in different layouts where you would want to see it. It's a little bit tedious to do it the first time, but after that it's a piece of cake. So once again, I'm just going to put any old thing in here. Let's put a brain with some gears. I think I have at least 2 gears. Make this one kind of bigger and put it up here. Maybe we even want to change the color on it. So we'll make it, I don't know. I'll give it purple brain. How's that a bad thing? Now I'm going to copy and paste it to the layouts where I want to see it. So I'm going to size it appropriately for the slide. And then I'm just going to do copy. Now I'm in the master, okay? I'm in the slide master. I'm going to put it everywhere I need it. I'm not going to put it on the 3 content because it's so busy. In fact, I may take it off of these vertical ones. There we go. And now click close. So for those that are using a layout where I copy and pasted it, it'll be there. My title slide, it appears bigger and in the middle. If you think about this, and then one of the reasons I kind of wanted to backtrack before I got into all the fun stuff, so to speak, branding changes, which I know a lot of you have lived through, can be really, really painful. If the logo changes or the colors change, it can be really painful. If you will take your decks and start doing the re-engineering of the slide master, I want you to imagine the next time there is a branding change, how easy that's going to be. So you're just going to go into the slide master, you're going to change the logo, change the colors, change the design, and boom, now you've got a brand new presentation. Okay? So it may be tedious, and I don't say go back and re-engineer all of your decks. I would say as you are re-upping one of them for use, go ahead and re-engineer it to get connected to a slide master so that those changes would be easy to apply next time. So that is the fast part of Fast and Fabulous. Now we're going to the fabulous. All right. So there's lots of things you can put on your slides and do with your slides to make them more effective and make sure they communicate better. One of those things is smart art. So let me do that second bullet point first, and then we'll do an org chart. So if we look at our presentation here, here we have one layout. Let me actually make that a normal layout here. So we want to make this one a process. It's a step 1, step 2, step 3. So if you have anything that you've created so far that has a step 1, 2, and 3, you can simply right-click in the middle of that, choose Convert to Smart Art, and I'm going to choose Continuous Block Process. And just like that, I have a graphic instead of just plain old bullet points. I might go here and instead of plain old bullets, say Convert to Smart Art, and let's use something like, I don't know, that, where I can click in these little pictures and put pictures in it. So let's go find some pictures where we can put in. So we'll put that picture in there, and it's going to size it and put it in the frame however it wants to. And there you go. And so now you can have something other than just straight bullet points. And this is the only, so the Smart Art, well, it's all over Microsoft Office. In PowerPoint, it is, this is where you can convert something to Smart Art. So you can't do that in anything else. You can convert it in PowerPoint. Now you notice this is happening down here. So this is not in the handout, but there's a couple of things to do. The right fix is to go into the Slide Master, duplicate this layout, and get rid of the logo. And I have one of these in all of mine. It says, let's rename it, title and content, no logo. So that I can use a screenshot or something like that. And if it happens to overlap it, so right click, layout, there is my no logo layout, and now it's gone. The other way, the cheater way, it's 5 minutes until the meeting and I don't have time to do that and I don't remember what she said, is to draw a white box. So we're going to fill it with white. We're going to remove the outline, and we're going to take our Smart Art and right click and move it to the front. I won't let me do that. Well, easier probably than to do this. Take the box, right click, and send it to the back. So when I send it to the back, it doesn't send it to the back of the logo in the slide master. It sends it to the back of the content that's on the slide. So that's a bonus item. That's what I do when it needs to be a quick and dirty. But really, if you find yourself doing that too much, just create another layout for yourself. So that's converting bullets to Smart Art. You can make the content much more interesting for your audience so that they engage with it. People engage with pictures. If you're talking about site characteristics for a building site, show a picture of the building site and then put the characteristics on the left-hand side. People want to visualize what it is that we're talking about. And I know that many of us, especially in this industry, we're data heads. You know, we tend to go for the data, the information. But the truth of the matter is, if you give me a picture to also engage with, I'm going to understand that data and apply that data better and quicker. So consider Smart Art for that purpose. Now let's talk about an org chart. Back in the day, when I was having to do a lot of this type of work, when somebody would ask me, hey, can you do an org chart? I would always have something more important to do because I hated doing org charts. Even with a tool like Visio, which is really kind of meant for something like that, it's just still so cumbersome. When Microsoft Office added Smart Art, they added the ability to do a pretty straightforward org chart. Now, you can make it pretty involved. That's another class, but let's do just a basic org chart. So we'll call this My Team. And on the Insert tab, we can choose the Smart Art button, or we can choose the Smart Art graphic that's going to appear inside the title and content layout. That's one of those flexible things. But since this one's a little bit easier to see, we'll click there. You usually want to be clicked inside of the layout because that will size it appropriately. So we chose Smart Art. We're going to choose Hierarchy and one of the org chart formats. Let's just do the first one. It's a basic one and it's pretty easy. Now, the difference between 5 boxes that you draw and connect with lines and Smart Art is this here. Now, if you don't see that little flyout box, what you will see is either a triangle or a less than sign over here, a left pointing arrow. Just click it. Now we can put in the organization. So this is Zach, and this is Jenny, Lily, and Jacqueline. Okay, that's my team. And that was as easy to do that. Now let's assume Jacqueline has staff. I'm going to press Enter, which is going to give me a 4th manager box, if you will. And now I'm going to hit Tab. And that's going to put that box under Jacqueline. And I'm going to put some names in here, like Josh and Ayana and Adam. Now, if I hire another manager, I'm going to press Enter, watch this, Shift Tab. And that brought that box up to the top where I can add Nick. I can go back to any of these and add staff. So that was pretty easy. I mean, that's just typing and pressing enter and hitting tab. You can resize it. You have some choices here and how it can appear. I generally tend to use this one because it prints really well, but you can also change colors. With an org chart, it will change color by level. You'll notice that this level adopted the same as the manager level, and that's fine, but if you wanted to make it different, it's also just a shape. So you can go into shape fill and actually give it a separate color all by itself. So that's SmartArt, and there's a lot you can do with it. If you just go in and explore what's there, I'm just going to make a new slide here just so we can play a little bit and browse around and see what's there. There's an org chart, here's SmartArt. There's an org chart that has pictures. This is really nice if you're introducing the team to somebody. So I can come here and click on that picture from a file. Let's go back to that. Oops. There we go, pictures, and put in that picture. And then I can go here and put in this other picture. And so, and he's turned around, so of course we'll spin him around because we don't want him to get seasick. All right, so you can put pictures in and text in the org chart. So this is Melissa, who's the director. She can't even spell director. Director. And then we have, you know, Zach, who's in charge of marketing. And you can give an org chart to somebody where they can kind of, especially if you're doing a lot of teleconferences, where they can kind of see who they're dealing with in a way, kind of see their picture and see who they're dealing with. So that's always kind of a nice way for people to interact too. But play with SmartArt. There's a lot there. There's a lot there for you to be able to try out. You can see there's different kinds of charts and graphs there. All right. I heard somebody's mic come on.
Melissa, there is a question in the chat box.
Okay.
Jessica is saying, if we add an icon to the slide master, shouldn't it show up on all slides? She tried it, and it showed up on most, but it did not show up on all slides.
So that is correct. So that's part and parcel of the thing we described earlier, where depending on the slide master, depending on the theme you chose, not every layout will adopt it. So you have to pay attention. If you noticed on mine, the title and text one did not adopt that one. The blank one didn't adopt the logo. So it's not an absolute. That is just one of those things about slide masters. Depending on the theme, some or all of the layouts will adopt from the master slide, but it's not consistent. So that's just the way slide masters work. All right, onward. So that's SmartArt. Let's talk a little bit about Excel. So let me come out here to Excel and hit my Windows key and type in EXE. I don't know where anything is anymore, and I don't have to know. That's the good news. And let me put some data in here. Let's call this East, West, North, and first quarter. Let's actually spell that correctly. And because I did that, I can just do this. And let's put some random data in here. So you can construct something like this. If you want to cheat like I am, I've just selected all these cells. If you just want to type numbers in, you can. But I'm going to do a rand between. And we'll put in numbers from 100,000 to, oops, let's make that a comma, not a period, 999, 999. So I'm going to say, do a random between. I've selected all the cells. I'm going to do Control Enter. That will put numbers everywhere. You can put whatever numbers you want. That was just kind of a cheater way for me not to have to type them all in. And we'll make those into dollars with fewer bullet points. So you can either open up some data that you have or dummy in some data, but keep it simple. We're going to do both the data and a chart. to get it in. So let's speak first about just text, just a table, just like this. If we just do a copy, and let's come out to our presentation here somewhere, we can make a new slide, and we'll make it title and content, and do a paste. When we just do a paste, the first thing it does is it kind of creates just a little table there, and that table says it's using the destination style. So all we can really do with that, we can try to make it bigger, but you notice the text doesn't get any bigger. So that's not a very effective way to just paste in data. If we do a paste, let's see what else we have available to us. We can keep source formatting. That will at least keep the fonts the same, but we have the same issue. So let's see what else we can do. Paste. So that was destination, that was source, and all that means is make it look the same. Now we can do an embed. Embedding something means that we are taking that workbook, that whole Excel workbook. All right, mine's only one worksheet big, but yours might be 52. And we're smashing it down and inserting it into this presentation and showing only the workbook. And now we can size it appropriately, but I want you to be aware that when I do a right click, worksheet object, edit, it is not opening my existing workbook. It's actually opening up an embedded copy in this slide, in this presentation. Now again, mine's only one worksheet, but if you're doing this from a really large workbook, it's actually taking the entire workbook and embedding that object. So when you see the word embed, take it seriously. All right, let's see what else we got. I'm going to do a paste. That was embed. This is a picture. Now, if you don't want that data changed at all, a picture's often not a bad way to go. And this could be a picture of a dog or a cat. It just happens to be a picture of some data in Excel. None of the things we've done so far will cause your data to change when the original file changes. Only the embed offers you the ability to actually, well, in the first two, you just have to go in there and manually change the data. The Excel won't automatically change it. Before we talk about how we can make that work, let's go take a look at the last option there. So we did destination, source, so this means make it look like it should in PowerPoint, make it look like it did in Excel, embed it, give me just a picture, or give me just the text. Now that doesn't seem to make much sense to just have the text. You would do that if you already had a table in your presentation. So if I do that, and then I do a paste, you can see that it's actually pasted it inside, inside the table. So that last one just gives you tab delimited data. If you want a specifically formatted table, create it first. And now at this point, you'd have to start making the text bigger to make it look right. Okay, so there's very few ways to actually get it in there where it's going to dynamically change. That's a little different. So if you wanted to change with your original file, let's get it all the way back to that, you would actually have to do a paste special paste link Excel worksheet object, and then OK. Now it's going to look exactly the way it does in Excel. It's going to come in only the way it looks in Excel. Let me get this sized a little differently here. But now if I go to change something back here, let's say I decide to change east to south, when I come back here, it's also changed here. So unlike charts, which we're going to do in a minute, just pasting table data actually needs to be done on a paste special if you want it to change dynamically. So let me do that again. Let's take this out here. We're going to grab our data and do a copy. We're going to come out here and do a paste special Excel worksheet object and OK. This is very dynamic sizing, so you can just click and drag and make it whatever size you want. From now on, when you make a change back here, let's say we make this bold and centered, and we make this bold, and I don't know, blue for whatever reason. When we go back here in a second, it should actually take on those characteristics. Let me see if it's just data. I love it when they change something and I get to find out. Yeah, it's just taken its time, but it will eventually catch up and change it as a linked object. I love it when it doesn't play well with me. Okay, let me come back to where we were here. So let's get to the Excel stuff. Bear with me one moment. There we go. Okay, so copy, paste special, that's the only way we're going to get it connected to the original workbook. Other than that, you're going to be maintaining it inside the Excel, inside the PowerPoint presentation. Now with charts, by default, it will be linked. So destination theme means make it look like it does in PowerPoint. Use my PowerPoint colors. Keep source formatting, says make it look like it did in Excel. But this will also, these first two will embed the entire workbook. And then you have very similar ones. Link, destination theme, link, source formatting, and picture. Let's take a look at how those might work. So let's go back to Excel here. We're going to make a chart. The way we make a chart quickly is to click inside our chartable data and press F11 on a Mac, not on a Mac, on a PC. That will give you your default chart. Let me do that again for those of you who don't believe your eyes. So we're here. We're clicked inside one of the cells of data, and I'm just pressing F11. Some of you on your laptops, on your smaller devices, might have to hit function F11. If you need that function key, you might need to do that. So now that I have my chart, I can make whatever changes I want to this. Let's say I want to put a chart title in, sales by region. And I'm just going to do a click on the outside, right-click copy. Let's come over to a new slide here. Click in the container. And I'm just going to do Control-V, paste. Now, do you see right away it adopted the PowerPoint theme because the default selection is destination theme and link data. So it is now linked. Let's see how that behaves. Let's do a save. I'm going to save this to my desktop. Okay, so I'm going to go back and change the underlying data. Fourth quarter looks pretty little. I'm going to make it bigger. So that changed my chart here, made this bigger. And it also changed my chart here to the 500,000 mark. So this is dynamic. By default, just doing a Control-C, Control-V, it shows the destination theme and it linked it to the original workbook, much easier than the data side. What are my other choices? I can use destination theme and embed the workbook. Remember, embed. Embeds the whole darned workbook. I keep expressing that because I've seen some of your workbooks. I know they're pretty big. So even though you're just doing a chart, it's taken the whole workbook. And then it becomes available to whoever gets the PowerPoint file to be able to see. And if that's not something you want, then you don't want either of the embed options. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying being aware that you're doing it. The second one is use source formatting and embed. You can also do that with link. So if somebody has spent a lot of time on their colors in Excel and they want those colors in the PowerPoint, you can just choose whatever the like option is and choose source formatting. You can also choose picture, and the picture is only ever going to be source formatting. So if you want it to look a certain way, you want to use like the regular theme colors. Let's see what our design theme is here. Our design theme is called Feathered. So theoretically, I could come back here in Excel and change the themes to, I don't know, do I have something called Feathered in here? Let's see. Yep, Feathered. So now the colors in Excel are the same. And if I were to do a copy, paste, picture, it's going to use the theme colors. So those themes, the colors are across the board. So if you make your own theme colors, immediate, and you name it, you save a custom theme. Let me show you what that looks like. Design. So you've tweaked everything and you do a, pardon me, it's over here, save current theme. You can name it, and then that theme now becomes available all over Office, in Word, in Excel, in PowerPoint, everywhere. So if you want to stick with those colors, you can just save your own custom theme and then make it available if that's something you want to do. All right, that line was bothering me, so there we go. Okay. So keep in mind what the buttons mean. Watch the embed. Make sure you really mean it. All right, so a couple of fun photo tools we have. There is this effect, which I really like. So that was a good, I just saw the question pop up, Judy, so I'm going to answer that. It was, can you share a theme with somebody else? The best way to do that is to create a blank presentation with that theme, save it, send it to them, and have them do save current theme and name it. So you can create it, send it to somebody else, give them the instructions, go to design, hit save current theme, and this is what you name it, and now they have that same theme. There's no way to make it dynamic across users, but you can definitely send it to somebody with those instructions. Great question. Okay, photo tools. So we have this little guy here, and there's an effect. Let me see if I can actually make a copy of this slide and show you the original effect for this one. So let's go back to our presentation that we're playing with here, do a new slide, and put all that in there. Okay, let's get rid of our bullet points because we don't need that. So originally, this was actually meant, let's see how I did that originally. So we had this guy, this is the original picture, and I'm going to send it to the back. So we actually had the guy disappearing, and here's how we did the effect. Okay, so that was how we intended this. So how we did that is we took this original picture, and on the Format tab, we did Remove Background. Well, first we made a copy because that would not be good. So let's make a copy. Sorry about that. So make a copy of the picture so we have the original one. And how we created that little shadowy guy image was to do Remove Background. Now initially it's going to try to guess what you want to remove, and it's not always going to get it right. So it gives you the opportunity about marking areas to keep and marking areas to remove. So we're going to choose to keep. Don't try to trace what you want to keep. Just draw a line, a diagonal line across what you want to keep. So I think we have everything we want to keep. Now let's draw diagonal lines across what we want to remove. Whoops. If you do a whoops like I just did, undo is a cool thing. Mark areas to remove. Let's just draw a line across that, and a line across that, and maybe a line across that. We're close. Hit remove background, areas to remove, get rid of this guy, and this guy. It may take a little tweaking. Mark areas to keep. Let's go ahead and keep the rest of that and keep his arm. Okay, we'll assume that's enough and say keep changes. So now we have the little cutout guy. What we're going to do from here is format transparency. We don't actually want to make him transparent. We actually want to make him lighter. So we're going to go to corrections and make him lighter. And we can go to picture corrections options and even use the finer tools there. So we kind of really want him to disappear, but some semblance of him still left. Okay, we're going to take this and we're going to drop it to the back. We're going to realign him and then animate him. Animations, fade. So when you show this slide, let me get rid of his other faded guy. When you show this slide and you want to talk about presentations that support, not supplant the speaker, so now you have that kind of cool little effect. And that was done with remove background. It's not an exact science. It does have some, some issues, but you can definitely do remove background. You also have other effects. Let me come back here and take our regular picture, close this, make it a little bigger. You have other tools too that you can use, like format, artistic effects. You can do this kind of thing. Should let you try it on, just delayed. You can do color changes. So if you want to do that, it'll, oh, I've got the wrong thing selected. No wonder it's not working. Okay. Artistic effects. There we go. So you can experiment with some of these. Some of these make nice backgrounds if you're going to mess around with pictures like that. So you've got quite a few more tools in there that you can use. Before we get to 3D graphics, I do want to share with you screenshot tools. It's interesting. Screenshots and screen clippings have been inside Microsoft Office since 2010, since version 2010, and yet a lot of people still don't know it's there, and they're using the snipping tool, or I forget what that little program is called that a lot of people buy. You don't have to buy it anymore. Screen clipping and screenshots are built into all of your Microsoft Office tools now. They're on the Insert tab. Let me go out to a website here. Let's go find Chrome. And let's go to that guy. All right. So if I want to do an insert, here's the screenshot button right here. Screenshot, screen clipping will take me to the last window I had open and gray it out. Now I can draw a box around anything that I want, and that will appear in here. This also works great for things like if you want to show somebody how to do something in Outlook and you want to show them something on the ribbon. We can do an insert, screenshot. We can either take the whole screen or insert, screenshot, screen clipping, and clip just the things we want to show. And that, if you look at a lot of my handouts, that's a lot of how I build my handouts are with screen clippings and screenshots. And you can, of course, make them bigger. Now, be aware, depending on the resolution, depending on the size, they may or may not print really well. So if you're sending something out to print, you may want to actually magnify the screen as big as you can. I just hit the Windows key and do magnify before I clip what I want to get the biggest possible size. And then I can size it down a little bit. Maybe it won't lose some resolution. But these are screenshots, so they're not necessarily high resolution graphics. Okay. 3D graphics, which is something new. If you have Office 365, just want to give you a little taste of it. 3D graphics, let's go to a new slide here. If you have an older version, I'll show you a workaround. But if you've got Office 365 and you go to Insert, you'll now notice something called 3D models. There are some built-in ones. We'll go ahead and do something easy like, let's do a globe. And I'm going to insert this guy. So that's going to put an image, and you're going to see this. This is the 3D effect. So you can actually scroll it around. So I can do, let me duplicate that guy and take the second one and scroll it to North America, and duplicate that guy and scroll this one to Europe. So you can do things like that, working with a 3D model. You also have in your newest version something called Morph. So I'm going to actually give myself 2 blank slides here. And instead of having them all on the same slide, and I'm actually going to take this one, so they're all the same size and the same position. If I take the second and third slide, now you're only going to see this on Office 365, and use the morph transition, this is how this would look in presentation. So that's something you have with 3D models. Now that's 365 only, the newest versions only. I believe it also may be in the box version of Office 2019, which hardly anybody has. But if you're running Office 365, you have it. Now you've got some limited 3D object capability in earlier versions. I'm just going to give you a taste of that. We're not going to go deeply into it. I do a whole course on 3D objects. But if we put this in here, just a plain old sphere, let's give it another color fill here. And I'm going to take the outline away. Here's what you want to look for. Right-click, Format Shape. It's on this selection. I always wonder what the heck that was, but it's Format Shape, Shape Options. And you can actually fool around a bit with these guys. So let's say 75 points, top bevel, 75 points. So right away, it's now starting to look like a ball. And we can choose a different material if we want. We can make it look glassy. And now we actually have a 3D object. Now that's available to you pretty much no matter what version you're using. So that's the center section of tools. And you want to begin by making the width and height of a bevel the same. Now let's see what happens, because, you know, again, for me, this is just trial and error half the time. So that didn't change much. Contour, you can see that changes the way it looks a little bit, kind of gives it a different shape. You can make the lighting come from different places. So you can do that even if you don't have the most current versions. Now, you're not going to get that nice little morph effect, but you can definitely do that. If you're running Windows 10, you probably have a little tool called Paint 3D. You can create your own video objects. Let me just take a quick look here. No, that's not what I wanted. Bear with me one moment, just to kind of see where we are in the fabulous part. I'm good. Let me show you this, and then I'm going to stop for questions again. And if we have time, we'll go into some of the other things. It's almost always in a presentation like this, we're never going to cover everything, but I wanted you to have the handout that has those tips in there. So the handout includes everything. All right, this is something new, and this began with 2016, I believe, screen recording. Now this, to me, is one of the greatest innovations they've ever done to PowerPoint, because whether I have it in my presentation or whether I'm using it to create a video snippet to show somebody how to do something, this tool all of a sudden gives you screen capture without spending the hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a screen capture application like Adobe or Camtasia. Let me show you how. So let's say I want to do something in Excel. Start with my data here. So I'm going to do, and it's called screen recording. Once you do screen recording, it wants to know what part of the screen you want to record. So I'm just going to say that part. And I'm going to hit the record button. It's going to give me a 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to use Windows key Shift Q to stop. So let's say I want to change the format of this. I'm going to make this black, and I'm going to sort it by first quarter and add in a total. And I'll copy that across. And that's it. So Windows key Shift Q. Now let's see what I got over here in PowerPoint. You can see it's given me that little player. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. And if I hit play, whoops. We don't need to hear my voice again. We just need to see the mouse clicks. And there it is. You can see everything I just did. So that's something. Now, don't try to use this to record a 2-hour presentation. This will crater PowerPoint. But this is really, really good for creating quick snippets of how to, or this is what I was doing when I got the error message to share with a help desk or somebody. Now, it doesn't have to stay in PowerPoint. Once you do that screen recording, you can right-click and save the media file as an MP4 someplace else. So I'm going to save this out to my desktop as Excel table fix. And so from the desktop, I now have a file called Excel table fix, which will simply play in whatever media player I decide to play it in. So this can be put out on YouTube. It can be put out on a company intranet to show somebody how to do something. And you now have that power if you're using Office 365 to do screen capture. Okay, before I get to this last part, let me go ahead and tap in, because there was a lot of gooey stuff in there, and see if there are any questions in the queue. Judy?
I don't see any new ones, but I had a comment and a question. My first comment is, I didn't realize that the custom screen themes that you create, that it'll carry across Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Is that right? Or was it just PowerPoint and Excel? Or?
No, it carries across. So if I create a custom theme in Word, it's now available in PowerPoint.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you start with. It just carries across. That's a really cool thing I learned today. Thank you for that. And then I just missed how you created that little video snippet. Was it, where did you go to start that? One.
So it is on the Insert tab.
Okay.
And it is called Screen Recording. If you have 365 Screen Recording. And then this is the thing that you have to do first. You really have to tell it what you want to record first. What part of the screen, right? And then you hit record, and it's Windows key Shift Q to stop it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else pop up?
I don't see anything just yet.
All righty. So custom slideshows, for those of you that have really big decks and you want to create a subset deck, I'm going to go to the one we've been doing, which now has, I don't know, how many slides does it have? 18 slides. So on the slideshow tab, you'll see a button. And again, this is on all versions. You should see this on all versions. Custom slideshow, custom shows. Now, what this is going to allow you to do, we'll name one. We'll call this subset deck A. Now, it says, what slides do I want? Well, I want the title slide and the agenda slide. And I want this. And I want that. And the other, and summary, and thank you. And that's all I want. And I'm going to click Add. So right now, let me just close this for a second. If I show this, I've got all of the slides, okay? Every slide in this deck that we made today, I have all of them. But if I go to Custom Slideshow now and select Subset Deck A, all I'm going to see is that, the agenda, then this, that, and the other. This is not a copy. It is merely for a custom show called Custom Deck A, what do I call it? A Subset Deck A, only show these slides. So this keeps you from having to make copies of giant decks just to use a subset of the slides. Now you can certainly continue to do that, but think about what happens when you want to redesign the theme or you want to make changes to the way logos appear. All of a sudden now you have to change however many decks you have out there. So custom slideshow decks, a really good time saver. Another one is called sections, and this was added beginning with 2010. Sections, I'm going to go to the slide sorter view. That's that kind of 4-box thing down here. And we can, of course, use slide sorter view to rearrange things. But what I like to do in slide sorter view is insert sections. So it's easier to show you and then talk it through. So if I insert a section here called intro, and then I insert a section here called Excel data. I think I've got somebody in something I think is hot. And then I have another one here called add section, slide layouts. What this allows me to do, let me add one more. Right click, add section, graphics. And then let me just do an ending one. So here, let's just do closing here. Add section, closing. So by putting sections in, I now give myself the ability, right click, collapse all, to view my presentation this way. So if I want to move a slide from graphics up to Excel data, it's easier skipping over this in layout. So I can actually work with this collapse down. I can move whole sections. This is 9 slides. I'm going to move up just by clicking and dragging and moving that up. So that's what you get by sections. It's a way for you to look at your presentation in an organized fashion and work with it by major topic. There's one more benefit here. If I do my presentation, let me start with the first slide, and I do a right click, see all slides, it's going to give me those sections here too. So I can say, yeah, we need to skip down to the slide layout section and look at that one. Right click, see all slides, here's my sections. Let me go to the Excel data section and show that one. So it gives you a lot more maneuverability inside of your deck. So these are great for structuring large decks. It's great for being able to jump around. If you, in creating a presentation, know pretty much you're going to have to jump back and discuss certain topics, this is a great way to do that, to give yourself the ease of saying, yep, I know it's back here in the financial section, or I know it's back here in the marketing section, just to be able to jump to that section quickly and find the slides. Okay, coming in again. Judy, any questions before I try to cover the next one?
No, not at this time.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about animation. If you could take away one thing about animation, should you? If you're not sure, no. If you're not sure whether or not to use animation, probably the answer is no. One way to think about animation is to ask, will it enhance understanding of your content? Let me come back to one of our slides here in this guy. It's not that one. It should be this one. All right. So let's say we have a slide with a lot of data on it, like this one. Okay, and we really want to show this one column at a time in order to be able to speak about it and have people layer on that information. We can apply animation to these containers by selecting them, choosing animation, and whatever entrance animation you like. I like float in. Now this is going to float in each bullet, okay, which is not exactly what we wanted. So if I go to animation pane, I can have bullet 1 and 2 appear with previous. There we go. Expand that guy. That should be okay. Let's see what we got. We want these other, and containers need to appear with previous. Let's see if I can get this guy to expand for me. There we go. And things and in with previous, and this one on click. And this one on click. So basically you're going to set up the animation you want, and then you're going to work with it in the animation pane. So now what I have is this. We're going to talk about this information, followed by that information, followed by that information. Where it helps to communicate, that's really when you want to use animation. You don't want to use it just to bounce things around the screen. You can animate, you can get really creative with your animation, how you want to make it work. You can take an org chart and build it layer by layer. If we take a look at our org chart back here, I have it in this one. Where did I put it? It's probably in one of the other ones. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. So if we want to animate this org chart, this one, we can select it. We can choose the type of animation we like. We'll choose fade. Initially, everything fades in, but we can go to effect options and say one level at a time, and then it will do that. Or we can say one by one, and then it will give us this and show it built. You can do very similar things with a chart. We can animate how a chart appears. Let me go back to my Excel and grab the data. So let's do a copy and a paste. Copy and a paste. And we can animate this part, animation, fade in, effect, by series. So you can apply animation to various things in your presentation. Do it when it helps enhance, when it helps communicate your message. Don't do it at any other time. So do it when it really helps to catch. One other thing I will say, though, as far as a distracting animation, if you are lucky enough to be delivering boring information, sometimes we're there depending on your job title, if you're delivering a lot of statistics, when you change, either use an interesting transition or an interesting animation to snap your audience back to you from one slide to the next, because they may be getting a little bit of what I've heard called white line fever, what truckers get when they're just focused on that middle white line on the highway and they stop seeing the things around them. So when the presentation is kind of monotonous, put in an interesting animation, a layered animation that you see described in the handout, or an interesting slide transition. So if we come out here and we go to transitions, we can use an interesting slide transition to get somebody's attention. Don't overdo it. Don't put those on every presentation. Just do it enough to catch people's attention. All right, I think I am, let me see where we are, pretty much through all of it. There's some additional information on animation there. Judy, any more questions?
I'm not seeing any in the chat box right now. So last call, we're like about just a few minutes away from the top of the hour, 2 o'clock. So if there's any last minute questions, get them in quick now, please. And while you're thinking about that, let me just say that you should have received a sign-in sheet. If people are joining you on this webinar, please have everybody sign in. The email address on the bottom of the sign-in sheet goes to Laisha Thomas. Send that to her, and the Seattle Chapter SDA will be offering 2 continuing education credits for this webinar today. I'm not seeing anybody typing in the chat box.
So as you guys get a chance to try some of this stuff, if you come up with questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can hit the contact page on my website, melissaemct.com/contact. We've also got some other seminars running. Reach me at info@sawbuckseminars.com and go visit that website. I'd love to hear from you.
And then just a plug for, we are calling Melissa back for the Seattle Chapter SDA. I believe it's August 13th, and it's going to be on Outlook, Taming Your Outlook Inbox. And it'll be another 2-hour webinar. So like I mentioned earlier, she's kind of our chapter guru of all things MS Office. So we've asked her to come back in August for another webinar on Outlook. And the registration for that is open as well.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, I don't see anybody starting to chat or anything. I think we can hang it up. It's like a minute till the top of the hour. Melissa, thank you so much for doing this for the Seattle Chapter SDA, and thanks everybody that attended. Don't forget to send them that sign-in sheet, get everybody to sign it, and thank you, Melissa, so much.
Thanks, Judy. Be well. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thanks.